I call this meeting of the General Government and Finance Committee to order. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call shows all members are present.
And with that, we'll move on to item 3, citizen input. Please come up to the podium, fill out your yellow slip with your information, and please keep your comments to approximately 3 minutes.
Good evening, Scott Heffley, W159 and 10514 Old Farm Road. Just a couple comments. First of all, congrats to Aaron. I know you're going on to a bigger city and more responsibility, but thank you for the work you did here. We all appreciate it. As far as tonight goes, completely in favor of making the school board position a voting one. I think it always should have been voting because they're one of the largest stakeholders we have. You have residents and children, so that's thousands and thousands of people. So they have a stake in what we're doing and they should be voting. So I hope that goes forth. I also like having, looks like it's a new that we're looking to put citizen members on the standing commissions other than the plan commission. So I think I've been up here talking about transparency, which everyone's in favor of, it seems. So having a non-elected engaged citizen on those committees and commissions is helpful. We already have that: utility advisory, economic development, library board, park and rec. We have engaged citizens on all those commissions. So putting them on the standing, and the plan commission is a standing commission. They meet every month. So I think that's good to add it on, and probably looks pretty good out in the general residents of Germantown too. I know we had 2 trustees on the senior center advisory committee. That seems like a lot. I think they only meet 3-4 times a year. So going to 1 is probably less strain on the trustees, because you guys seems like you're all on a bunch of committees and you only have so much time. So I hope that passes. I read I know Mr. Sajdak made a change, but he's going to a firm, it seems like, that has more expertise in different areas of the law that maybe, we don't have access to it directly. So I think that's good. I reviewed the contract saying we're going to do automatic 1-year renewals. I mean, that sounds good too. Just good business. As I recall, we had a vendor earlier this year that we had for 30 years. And I mean, that's not RFPing. If you have the same vendor for 30 years, that doesn't keep them, working for us as hard. So I think that's good. And the last part, I'll say, this is my just personal thing, is the agenda packet was 416 pages. Pages 67 through 414 were the financial reports or the account ledgers or whatever we're doing. I'll say it again. Rick can disagree. He's got accounting background. Check ledgers are not financial reporting. They are not. What I was hoping and looking for, and I've said it before, is kind of an executive summary, which everybody in finance and accounting gets. Okay, just saying this was what's going on, how we doing overall. If they want the reports, have them ask for it, but having 416-page agenda packets isn't good for you guys or anyone. You're not looking through all that. I'm sorry, you don't have the time. So hopefully we can get more concise on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else coming forward?
Okay, Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. Good evening and congrats to Aaron. Big deal. So wish you well. I agree with everything that Mr. Heffley said. I also think that it's a good idea that there are citizen members on some of the committees and commissions, because even though there are 9 trustees, there may, depending upon how elections go, may not be all the expertise that's required on different types of committees for a well-defined and what am I trying to say? A breadth of experience that different people would bring to the committees. So I see no reason why we shouldn't be tapping into the talent within this community and having a citizen who may be an expert in certain parts of subject matter to go on various committees and commissions. We do that and we talk about that at the Plan Commission. And there's a variety of different people with a number of different backgrounds there. And I think that it's a good thing to do. And I do think that as a village that we should be broadening our look and our resources and tapping more into the businesses and the residents who are willing and able to come forward and assist with some of the business of the village. In regards to what Mr. Heffley said about the financial statements, I sort of like looking at things as a business to a certain extent. I mean, I don't know what a village balance sheet P&L type setup would look like, but something that's commonly known in the general life, sort of formats that people recognize would be helpful. I would strongly encourage that. I do think that it's important that we do see the check runs, because that's how you can double check what things are being paid out. So I think that should remain, but I agree that there should be some type of summary in the financial statements. Those are my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else for public comment? Citizen input? Anybody online? That's all right.
All right, if there is someone online that wants to speak, we will come back to citizen input. Otherwise, we'll move on to consent agenda, and we have 2 minutes, the minutes from April 21st, 2025, and our special meeting from May 5th, 2025.
Make a motion to approve those A and B minutes from the 21st and May 5th.
You turned off your mic. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for the minutes. Any discussion? Any corrections? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to unfinished business. Item A, allowance to utilize capital funds for the Windows 11 upgrade project. And this has gone up and back a couple times, and there has been some updates. We now have, I'm going to let Aaron finish this up, but we now have 3 different computer configurations rather than just 2, which reduces some of the performance on these that are not necessary for, you know, like podium stuff and other things like that. But Aaron, please go ahead.
Okay. So originally we had requested 150,000, but that was back when we were planning for the capital back in like August of last year. A lot has changed since then. You know, we have a new DPW facility. We had some purchases last year for police, or purchases at the beginning of this year for police tough books that were supposed to be part of this configuration. So it did get reduced. When we originally had the $79,000 request, that was without accessories. Capital Data, you know, then suggested accessories, including in the computers, but they said that those might not be exactly what we need, but they were just giving us an estimate. And so that brought us to 91,000. But then we did some more configurations to make sure that, to reduce some of the computers that were not going to be used as frequently. And so that gets us to $90,000. So my suggestion is to approve it not to exceed $79,000 or $26. $79,026.
Right, this has changed quite a bit from the original budget of $150,000, but yeah, then we saw the needs. There's been tough books added, there's been some peripherals added. So I think we have a good number here now. So committee, what do you want to do?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the allowance to utilize capital funds for the Windows 11 upgrade project, not to exceed the 79,736. What is it?
Trying to find it myself.
79,026. Right.
Second.
All right, a motion to approve the Windows 11 project not to exceed $79,026. Any other discussion?
Good.
If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Aaron.
There's nobody online.
Great, thank you for that. Appreciate it. All right. With that, we'll move on to new business. Item A, 4th of July fireworks contract with Wolverine Fireworks.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to approve, and with some more information, we have our Park and Recs Director here. Go ahead, Gil.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Wolverine, which has produced the fireworks shows for the village of Germantown for years to come. They actually came down in price this year to $24,900. That will be taken out of two accounts. We have a village account that we put approximately $8,000 in each year for the 4th, and the rest of it was approved through tourism. And when we met last October, they voted to approve the funding of the fireworks. And Wolverines is just waiting on a signature on the contract, and the show will start at 9 p.m. on the 4th of July.
All right, we have a motion already. Questions?
Just a quick question. Why was it lower price this year? Did they say?
No, ma'am, they've been doing it with us so long, they just gave us a little bit of a discount. It wasn't much. It's typically been right around 25, a
Okay.
little over
I
25.
just didn't want them to like cut the show in half or something.
Oh, no, it'll still be a full 30-minute show.
Yes, Trustee Jan Miller.
And then I just wanted to ask a question. Are we actually budgeting these amounts for the 4th of July fireworks?
Again,
8,000 was budgeted, right? And the rest was
Yes.
just the Tourism Commission.
Okay.
correct.
But the tourism has a budget, correct?
Yep, so there's a line in the budget.
Necessarily.
Yeah, there's a line in the budget. We typically budget $50,000. However, they have essentially a small fund balance of roughly $100,000. So they may go over the $50,000 in any given year. But there is a budget for them.
Okay. Well, my point was, perhaps you're on the tourism, aren't you?
Yes.
Are you? Okay. Maybe that's something that can be put into the budget if we can't find enough sponsors or something.
Yeah, and I think we did it, we did the approval in October so that we knew that the funding
That
was
it
going
would
to be
go,
there this
yeah.
year.
Okay, that's great. That was
So-
my point.
Okay. Any further questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
We move on to item B, draft request for proposal for municipal advisor services.
In your packet is a draft RFP for municipal advisory services. You can think of this as the work that Ayler does on the village's behalf as relates to bond issuance, compliance, and those types of things. The last time that the village went out for RFP for municipal services had been, at least 5 years, probably more. So what we're trying to do is go out to RFP for those services with an estimated start date of January 1st, 2026.
All right, committee.
I'll move approval to go out for the RFP.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the draft RFP. Are there any questions or corrections or anything you want to change on the draft?
If I can just make one comment, this was really only up for discussion. As long as there's no changes that the committee had, we would go ahead with the RFP as proposed.
Where did you get the template, or did we have this in our resources? What do we?
So for this one, I used what other municipalities had recently used, and kind of just customized it to the Village of Germantown.
Okay.
Okay, so you're just looking for some guidance here.
Yep, and any feedback the committee has, if there's any recommended changes, we would make those. If there are no changes or if there are minor changes, we plan on posting this RFP tomorrow.
Okay, what is the, so, is there a committee? I see committee approval. So who constitutes the committee?
So for the committee approval, that would be General Government and Finance.
Okay, it will be.
So
this-
any contract would come before GGF and ultimately the village board.
Okay. And how many companies do you have lined up for this RFP?
I have two off the top of my head. I'm sure the administrator can think of more than I can. But Baird and Ahlers certainly will be reaching out to. And then if there's any others that the administrator is aware of, we would include them as well. As well as we plan on posting this on our website and likely the League of Municipalities.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. And so how are, so when you have a response, then you'll give us the response and then we'll go through an evaluation?
So the initial evaluation will probably be internally via staff, via myself, the administrator, likely the DPW director, the clerk, some of the admin staff, and then we'd make a recommendation to committee. We would include all the proposals in the agenda packet, but staff would make a recommendation of who we feel is the best fit.
Mhm. And no one on the economic committee?
No, it'd likely just be staff, internal staff.
All right, any other questions on the municipal advisor services? We actually have two items here tonight for this. Anything else on the first one? Okay, if not, we'll move on to item C, and I will alter the way I read these and tell you if it's for discussion or action, and that'll keep me in line as well. Item C, draft request for proposal for municipal investment services discussion.
Similar to the municipal advisory services, it's been at least 9 to 10 years since the village went out for RFP for investment advisory services. Our current advisor is Ahlers. Similar to the municipal advisor services, we're looking just to get an RFP out there to get up to market rates and make sure we're still competitive with other firms.
So just a quick difference between the two. One is for the bonding and one is for the continual.
Yep, so the investment
investments that we
services,
have.
as we get bonds or as we have general fund reserves, Ahlers or whoever our investment advisory service partner is, they go out and buy different bonds or treasuries to make sure we're getting a good rate of return on those investments.
Okay.
But then,
Hey, Kaminsky.
I'm glad we're doing this. I think 5 years is probably on the outside. I mean, a time which anybody should be
Right.
reviewed. I guess my question is there anything else in your area or that you're aware of that we should be doing this? Let's hit this 5-year.
Other RFPs?
Yeah, that we would need.
Ones that we'll plan on bringing forward either later this year or 2026 would be banking services, auditing services, Eventually, we'll probably bring forward
Auditing.
assessment services, those types of contracts.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead.
okay. Matt, we have, the investment services and we have the advisory services. What is the spend on either one of those, on both of those? Like, what is the portfolio? You know what I mean?
I don't think I know what you mean.
How much of the village money would each of these companies work with?
How much do we, oh, that's a whole different thing. I thought you meant how much do they charge for this, but you're
Well,
talking
that's
about
the
how
next
much the
question.
investments are?
So in,
What they're
in
managing.
investments, it depends on, how much money we have on hand. So typically all of our general fund reserves are invested throughout the year, which is around $6 million. Every time we go out and issue bonds, we don't spend all that money overnight. So we'll come up with a timetable. So if we borrow, $3 million for 2025 capital projects, we plan to spend that over the next 6 months. So we'll invest, a little bit throughout the year to get some rate of returns. Currently, there's probably 12 to 13 million in investments with Ehlers or through Ehlers.
And is that including both categories? No, just the investments.
Just investments, yeah, if we're talking just investments. For the advisory, that
Advisor is-
they don't hold any dollars for us. They're the ones that help us go through the bonding process.
And that includes like the TID formation or all the financials for the
Correct.
TIDs as well, right?
Correct. All the reporting for the TIDs, the creation of TIDs, annual reporting, all of those services.
Yes, so the next question is Rick's question. So what is the approximate spend for services in each of those categories?
I'll start with for municipal advisory services. I don't have it in front of me. It also depends on the size of the bond issuance.
Okay.
I would say it's anywhere between, I would say it's around $20,000 a year, perhaps. It really depends on the size of the bond issuance, and then what reporting is coming due for the different TIDs.
And the number of bonds. So if we go out for a TID, it's going to be a little bit more. If there is no TID that year, or any formation of anything new.
Correct.
it's
Yeah,
going to be
we're
less.
paying each time we go out for a bond issuance. We're paying fees on top of that.
Okay.
That's why we try to do one bond issuance a year. For investment advisory services, again, it depends on the overall dollar amount that we have invested. They get a small percentage of those returns. I don't have it in front of me. I should have included that, but I can get that information over to you.
That'd be appreciated.
Yep,
It's a percentage, correct?
correct.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion on these? Great, thank you. It's,
that- Was
One-
that the same timeline?
Correct.
Thank you.
okay. We'll move on to item D, an ordinance amending section 1.29, paragraph 1 of the Germantown Municipal Code to amend the membership of the Plan Commission. And this is for action.
Sure. So before you this evening is a proposed ordinance that effectively just shakes the, currently the Plan Commission has 7 members plus 1 ex officio member being the school board member. What the ordinance does is gets rid of that ex officio position and just makes one of the regular positions a position that's filled by the school district. And that's really what it does.
And that would take it to 7 voting members, or retain it at 7
Correct.
voting
Keep
members,
it at
but
7 voting
no
members.
ex
Basically,
officio.
what the effectively the change is you're going from 5 citizen members to 4 citizen members, although presumably in most cases, the school district rep will also be a citizen. So it'll be roughly the same, but we do provide that the school district rep could be an outside person. So for example, if they decided they just wanted the superintendent to be the person that came and sat on the committee, the superintendent may or may not live within Germantown. And so we allow that, but otherwise that's effectively a change going from 5 to 4.
All right, committee?
You have
Go
a
ahead.
question? I'll make a motion to change our ordinance and amend section 1.291 of the Germantown Municipal Code to amend the membership of the Plan Commission.
I'll second for discussion.
All right, we have a motion for item D, ordinance amending section 1.29. Discussion.
I guess I just want some more background on this. What are other communities doing with their plan commissions? Do we know? Do we do that research? Do we analyze this? Second, why, and I'm just going to throw all my questions out there. Why didn't we just add another member position instead of making this one of the existing? Those would be my two main ones, because I can understand why we'd want a school board member on there as advisory. But I just need a little help on this.
Sure. So I'm going to take them in reverse order just because it's an easier answer to the second one. The answer to the second one is that we kept it at 7 just because we do like to keep odd numbers so that you have less risk of a potential tie as part of that. That's just pretty typical practice when you're setting up boards and commissions. You try to keep it at that odd number so that you always end up with theoretically a majority. And so you don't end up with a series of ties that just take place. The other component to that question or the second question that you talked about is, why might they want to have, some role? Remember that they do get a component. There is a component on your tax bill, for example, that's based on, the assessed value within the community. And so whether that's, through the TIDs, as we've talked about with potential TID 10, where we're worried about, enrollment, remember that all development within the village likewise impacts them a little bit.
I get that. That wasn't my question. What are the other?
Yep. And then so for the first question, in terms of what other communities do, I would say by and large, at least the communities that I'm aware of, generally don't have a school district representative at all. It's just generally the chief elected officer, typically one, occasionally 2 members of the governing body, and then citizens that are, varied. Some communities are just any citizen. Some communities have very specific guidelines in terms of, we really want an architect and we want somebody that has this background and that type of thing. But there are no other communities that I'm aware of that have a school district, but representative, but we didn't do a specific deep dive to see if that was there. The other thing that I'll just remind everybody about is that we do currently have a seat on one of the committees at the school district that is a voting member as well. So it was a little bit of equality there as well. So.
Another question. So what would happen if we expanded the plan commission to 9 members? And that way we can invite a realtor or somebody with that type of background on to sort of balance things out and be there appropriately to provide the type of information a plan commission needs.
Certainly there would be no problems with doing that. There would be a tweak to the process a little bit because by statute, the plan commission is 7 members. So if we were going to deviate from statute, we'd have to do what's called the charter ordinance. Doesn't really mean a whole lot other than after it's passed, there's a period of time within which the citizens can basically petition to say, hey, we don't like this. We'd like to have a referendum on that. And then you have to go through the referendum process if that happens. So not a big issue, but that would be just the only change that would be required. And certainly you could look to do that if the committee wanted to.
I guess I would see something like that as beneficial for making changes, but.
Trustee Jan Miller?
Just a comment, the committee that our village board member is on is Buildings and Grounds, and they are a voting member on the school board. So when we,
Committee.
on that particular committee
Not on the school
only,
board.
not on the school board, but the school board Buildings and Grounds Committee. So when we had the school board come on, it was deemed as ex officio without, voting rights. But since, yep. So this kind of evens it out, I think. I would like to hear that from the Plan Commission. they can come to us.
All right, any other discussion? I have one issue with it, and that is that they don't have to be a resident of Germantown. And now we're having somebody on the plan commission that's not a resident, not a board member, approving things for our village.
I didn't think about that.
And I got a little heartache with that.
Mhm.
I am in support of putting a school district member on here, but personally, I feel that it has to be a Germantown citizen. This is for action at the village board. This is a recommendation to them, so I will hold any amendments until then. But I just don't want to start mixing residency here.
I didn't think about that.
Quick comment.
Yeah, trustee.
Um,
Jan Miller.
Just a quick comment. The school district does encompass other, our surrounding communities.
Sure,
Understood.
and right, and that's part of it, so I can see why a village member or a trustee is part of their school district, but they are not part of our village if they are not a resident of the village. So it's not the same.
Being the superintendent or?
Well,
No, I mean, so the trustee who sits on the school board represents 5 communities, right? So what she's saying is, well,
Mhm.
they're making decisions for that. Well, that's true, but that's the school district.
Mhm.
Whereas this is, I don't want somebody from Richfield making our decisions.
Makes sense.
as it stands, Russ Ewert is the member from the school district, correct?
At the moment, the school district representative is actually vacant. You'll recall at the last meeting, Bob? At the last meeting, we actually changed him to just one of the regular citizen members so that we gave him a vote on the committee until we were able to bring forward this change.
Mhm.
So technically, the school district's position is vacant at the time. And certainly, I mean, I don't have any particular, dog in the fight, so to speak, in terms of whether you change it to allow for folks to be non-residents or not as the school district representative. The one thought was just that you may, obviously right now it's been, hey, we really want to be part of it. We're worried about enrollment. We're worried about, sizes of people in the schools. And so politically, it's very popular. And filling it with elected officials who then are residents here is going to be probably fairly easy. There are certainly going to be times where maybe that interest is gone, and if you're going to leave it as a seat that the school district has to fill, the board may at that point, the school board may at that point just, stick, the superintendent or somebody from the superintendent's office here who may or may not be the resident. That was the only thought behind it. Again, I don't have a particular care one way or the other how you do it, but that was the thought behind it, so.
Trustee Krasinski.
You mentioned something interesting there, that right now it's sort of politically popular, and that part bothers me too. I think all of these things are coming on the heels of the little brouhaha with the board and the potential for apartments in the village. Everything's, come on, that's the nucleus of everything that's going on here. And I don't like making snap decisions based on political friction. I think our plan commission has served us well in the past. I think it will continue to do so with the citizens it has on it. I have no problem with the school board member being advisory. And I potentially would not have a problem if the person was guaranteed Germantown resident. I would have an open mind to that. But I think this reactionary thing, it's the same thing with the next topic coming up, the committees, the standing committees. It's political stuff. And I would love to see us stop the political stuff, work with the people we have on these boards, and move forward as a village. That's my comment.
So we have motion for this, trustee Jan Miller.
Just a comment. I think that what we're trying to do is to utilize information that comes from both the village and the Germantown School District. They have 2 studies that are very important to us. One about their facilities and how they may have to expand, and one on enrollment. You can't take the schools out of Germantown, the Village of Germantown. So yes, there are Village of Germantown residents on the school board. And I think it's important to include the school board because we're working to make this a better village for our children. And we're all one village. So if the person has to be a Village of Germantown resident, then so be it. You'd have to bring that up. But I think this is a good idea because we've been trying to work together so that we are, that we have expansion or contraction needed for our schools based on how we start to build out.
All right, I changed my mind. I'm going to make a motion to amend that the school district member, if approved, must be a Village of Germantown resident.
Second. Now, if I heard that correctly, the school board or district member
School district member,
would have to be a Germantown resident if approved.
if approved.
Okay, I'll second that.
All right, so we'll go through the motion as amended first. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. 2-1, so motion passes. And then we'll go back to the original motion as amended of adding a school, I shouldn't say adding, of making the school board having a person from the school district as a representative, voting representative on the plan commission. With that, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah.
Motion passes 2-1 as a recommendation to the village board tonight. Tonight, right? It's on there?
It's on tonight.
Correct. Okay. Great. We'll move on to item E, an ordinance amending section 2.09 of the Germantown Municipal Code to amend the membership of the standing committees to include the appointment of a citizen member. And this is also for action and recommendation to the village board tonight.
Sure. So this one effectively makes 4 changes to the existing code. The first change is that it just sets as formal the 4 trustee members of each of the 3 standing committees. So general government, public safety, and public works. Right now, the code says a minimum of 3. I will tell you that in my 13 years as village attorney, it has always been 4 members. We've never had 3. So if that's what we're doing, we might as well just codify it. The second change is that it does add a citizen member to each one of the committees. What we've done to address some of the issues related to the fact that historically your standing committee is a subcommittee of the village board, as opposed to some other committee like plan commission is technically a separate entity, separate from the village board. And so because of that, we wanted to keep it trustee focused or centered in terms of conducting business. And so we define quorum in the case of the standing committees to then be 3 trustee members. So if you only had 2 trustees and the citizen member, you wouldn't have a quorum. You would need the 3rd trustee as part of that. And then likewise, you often hear you don't want unelected bureaucrats involved in spending money and doing things. Since we do under our purchasing policy have some items up to basically $25,000, authorization approval at this body, it doesn't go to village board. We just provide that the person would not vote on those particular items where you're actually spending the money or authorizing the expenditure of money. And then the last one is that you'll recall when we changed the plan commission language membership last year, we talked about the fact that we removed the fact that we could just appoint any trustee to come in and fill in at the meeting. And you'll recall that I talked at that time about how that's probably going to open us up to potential legal challenges at some point with the right individual that is, so inclined to be litigious. The idea being that it's you could game the membership a little bit to get some things. And so at the time, I remember actually it was Trustee Miller, I believe, had asked, well, we've got this provision somewhere else. What happens? And I believe my answer at the time was, well, the next time I need to touch that section of the code, that'll be one of the things that we're going to change. Well, here we are. We're changing the code. And so that's the last change, is we've just removed that ability to just appoint another trustee to have the quorum that's there. Realistically, with WebEx and the ability to appear remotely, there's very few times where you're not able to get a quorum together for a meeting. So,
All right, committee? Would need a motion.
Well, I would like to make a motion to approve an ordinance amending section 2.09 of the Germantown Municipal Code to amend the membership of the standing committees to include the appointment of a citizen member.
I'll second. Figured Terry wasn't going to. Terry, go.
This is actually worse than the Plan Commission. People get elected for a reason. They actually go out there and campaign, and people say, that's the person I want to sit up here and make decisions for me. I have a problem with a standing committee having a citizen on there with voting capability to make decisions for the community when they are not elected. I say, get elected. Put some skin in the game. Get out there and get your signs up. And don't wait to be appointed. I think this is a terrible idea, primarily for the accountability reason that you mentioned, but it goes beyond money. Can you imagine how screwed up these committees are going to be? Like, no, don't vote on that. That's got money involved. Oh, no, you've just made every committee meeting longer and more confusing. Somehow the committees, the standing committees, the way we've had them, have served Germantown well since when were we incorporated? In the 1920s at some point. And I'm sure we had ordinances on the books shortly after that. Somehow that worked. Again, I think this is political and I will not support it. And I'm sick of this political crap, frankly. So accountability is number one. And now decisions that are going to be made, even if they're not financial, let's say on the Plan Commission. Somebody comes in and it's a developer and needs something approved and doesn't get it approved because that person voted against it. Couldn't they sue us? That person wasn't elected. I mean, there's just too many hairs in this soup for me to enjoy even tasting it, to be honest with you. So why are we doing this? Are we doing this because somebody from our audience wants to sit on a committee? I would be very careful who we put on this committee. And if we're thinking about placing an accountant on our General Government and Finance Committee, frankly, I think it's kind of insulting to our staff. But aside from that, I think then we should look at 3 or 4 accountants and we should have a say in who we want to pick for that. We will elect that person as a committee if we're going to go that route. I mean, I just, the badness of this idea just totally explodes my mind. And if it happens, it happens. But I think we are really going in a very, very slippery slope direction. And once again, I'd like to know what other communities are doing. And you name one community that does this, where they have a voting, non-elected person on the committee. Is there several?
So that I actually do know the answer to because I did look. And I understand that West Bend at least has the provision to authorize it for one of their standing committees. I'm not sure if it's actively filled at this point or not, but I did talk with the city attorney up there and he did indicate that they had changed the code to allow for that. In terms of being sued, kind of a related topic, the village board, as it relates to its own operations, has broad authority to set, its own rules and regulations. And if that means you want to put a citizen committee or a citizen on a standing committee, I think you can do that. I'm not particularly concerned about any liability or potential litigation that would result from that. I think that falls under that broad home rule authority that the village board otherwise has. So.
I think I'm going to stick with the side of democracy. Get voted on. Get some skin in the game.
Trustee Jan Miller, you got any comments?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Just a few. So just to reiterate, this adding a citizen member. First of all, we have the standing committee, which would be 4 trustees. This is the example right here, GGF, okay? And then the quorum, we can have 3 trustees like we have this evening. And we're not letting any fill-ins anymore. No can do. And then we can add a citizen member. The citizen member does not get to vote or does get to vote.
Would get to, as it's drafted, would get to vote on anything other than in those instances where the action before the committee is to actually authorize a physical expenditure. So
Right, okay.
not a recommendation to the board for an expenditure, but the actual authorization of the
To
expenditure.
spend the money.
Correct.
Okay. So that would be like our capital funds that we just voted on. They would not be able to vote on that. For the windows? 11?
No, because that would
Right.
go to village board still,
Correct.
because of the amount, because it's
Right.
above $25,000. But if
So that
we
would
had a
be-
budgeted expense, and Matt, can you think of one off the top of your head that we've had recently?
Under 25,000?
Right.
Um,
That this committee would authorize? I mean, there's not a lot. so
Anything
I
under our
think it-
threshold that gets
Better,
approved,
yeah.
right? Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
gonna say, I
Nice,
knew
there
there
you
was
go.
one on that. My memory's short.
16, right, 25. Yeah, okay, yeah. And we have, in order to make up this village and to make decisions on every other committee, we have citizens and we kind of pick those citizens, or it has been in the past. For instance, Plan Commission, they have a financial person, they have a building person, engineer, etc. So the people are picked to actually for their expertise and to help the board. Maybe they have other questions. I think it's good to expand and get other people's ideas. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And I think it's just being part of the village. We can't all be elected. Most people don't want to be elected or do this type of work. So if we have people that actually want to get involved, I think that's great because they are part of the community.
Follow up to that, I have no problem. If it was advisory capacity, and they can still be involved. And citizens can come here and talk anytime they want and tell us what they think.
So I've looked at this and I have no problem with the cleanup things, but I'm not going to support having a citizen on the committees. And like Terry just mentioned, the other committees and commissions are advisory for the most part. The only one I can think of that actually allows funding is the Tourism Commission, and we do have representation from the Chamber of Commerce, and we're supposed to have one from the people who collect the money, and that's the hotels. That's really the only one. All the rest are not. This is more of a diluted position already with no money and doesn't count for a quorum. So it's already not a full member. we make policies and we talk about finances and we award contracts. And I believe, like Terry does, that that has to be an elected official to do that. If I think about the state assembly and they said, hey, we're going to bring in the citizen to sit in with us and vote, that's a no-go. Congress, people would be irate if that happened. So I can't support that. Vote, or you want to talk more?
Well, if they're, not to say that we have to do everything that everyone else does, but it's not out of the ordinary. This is not out of the ordinary. Other municipalities have the provision,
Yeah, and I don't like it.
and I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
All right, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion fails motion fails 2-1. So it will go to village board with
No recommendation.
no recommendation. All right, we'll move on to item F, an ordinance amending section 1.37, am I on the right one? Yeah. 1.372, paragraph 1 of the Germantown Municipal Code to amend the membership of the Senior Advisory Committee, and this is for action as well.
Sure. So actually in front of you is a revised version. I know I sent out a version this weekend. Today we heard from folks in the park, in the senior center itself, who wanted to make a couple changes as well. So the version in front of you effectively removes one trustee and makes that position just a senior resident of the community. And so basically what we're changing is that the current code provides for one senior club member, one senior from within the community who may or may not be a senior club member, one non-club member of the community, and then the two trustees. What we're doing then is changing that to be keeps the one club member. We add a second senior member from the community who doesn't have to be a member of the senior club, but could be. And then we keep the one non-club resident and one trustee. And then the other change is just that we add the senior coordinator instead of the senior director, which is what we had in the code. And then the park and rec director are both ex officio members of that body. So.
All right, committee?
Me?
Make a motion?
Yep. I'd like to make a motion to approve an ordinance amending section 1.3721 of the Germantown Municipal Code to amend the membership of the Senior Center Advisory Committee.
Second for discussion. What's behind it?
I've been on the Senior Advisory Committee, and first of all, we haven't ever had in the last 10 to 15 years, a senior center director. It's always been a coordinator. So before Mary, whoever was there was the coordinator. Gil is the director of Park and Rec, and he is over the senior center. So he has always been present at all of our meetings. At the inception of this senior advisory committee, there were actually 3 trustees. We meet on a quarterly basis. It's an hour-and-a-half meeting, and we're just trying to streamline, right? And actually, so the senior center, anyone can go there, but a senior technically is 55 plus. And there are multiple senior people that go to the senior center, and they're just going to the senior center. But there's also internally a little senior club, and that's been losing membership as we've been going forward year after year. Well, it's like a little club within the senior center. So they do about 3 or 4 events, but it's But because the senior center itself is doing so many trips, I think that's just becoming super popular. So therefore, we thought, well, this doesn't really represent what's going on. So any senior that wants to volunteer, and then we need to have a club member because they still are very important. And I think this is exactly what we've basically been doing, because one or two of the members, trustees can't make it anyway. So it ends up many times to be just one. So,
So they say.
so they say.
Do
Right.
you have a quorum without the trustee? Can?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else, Terry?
I'm there and I sit as the chair, so I conduct the meetings, and they always have.
All right. Anything else on this topic? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Well, so that will go forward with a positive recommendation to the village board. Item G, an ordinance amending section 12.08 of the Germantown Municipal Code to amend the regulations pertaining to direct sellers, transient merchants, and solicitors. And this is for action as well.
Sure. So the committee may recall this fall, we had talked about some issues related to these regulations. In fact, it even went to village board. At that meeting, the takeaway from that was we were looking to make some changes to the code. Two in particular. One was that there was some unclarity within our code about how we deal with nonprofit folks. So for example, when the Girl Scouts are selling their cookies outside of the Pick and Save, do they need a license or do they not, or a permit or not? And it wasn't 100% clear within the code. And so we just cleaned that up. Just basically, we exempt any nonprofit, any representative of a nonprofit looking to raise funds for that nonprofit is exempt. And then the other change that was requested was to change the hours that we allow for door-to-door solicitation. Basically, it's 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Currently, the proposed change from the board is that we would make that 10 a.m. Until sunset. So it would change throughout the year as to how late that they could be out there. So those are the two changes that are before you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion. Any discussion? Yeah,
Yeah,
Trustee Jan Miller.
Thank you. So what my understanding is, the Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, if they are in front of a Pick and Save or something, they ask permission from the store and then whatever, or they're just going door to door with their little wares. Okay. So, and that's okay. You don't need a permit. But sometimes, and I don't believe this is included in here, but I wanted to ask, how would we address when there's more of a person that's asking for money, like I need money to get a taxi, or I need money for food, or I'm unemployed, or something like that. What do we call those people? And is it included? Right.
Yeah, so in most communities, that's just addressed in a panhandling type ordinance.
There you go. That's the word.
I'm not sure, Chief, do
Better
we
than beggars.
have one? I don't think that we have one. And in all honesty, they're virtually impossible to enforce. There's been some case law that basically has classified the act of asking for money to be free speech. And so if you're going to regulate it, your ability to do so is very, very limited. And so there were a number of communities. In fact, Mequon was one of them a couple of years ago. The ACLU sent them a nasty letter that basically said, change your code or we're going to sue you. So Mequon did eventually change their code to address that and focused specifically particularly on instances where they were, particularly concerned. So the biggest change there, for example, was that we created a provision that said that it was illegal that you could not approach somebody who was at an ATM to ask for money, that you needed to keep your distance from that. And that would be okay, but you can't just outright prohibit panhandling, basically.
If somebody, just an example, if somebody was panhandling at a business, could the business ask them to remove themselves from the premise?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, ultimately, I think in circumstances like that, it would be probably addressed as a trespass, where the business has asked somebody to leave the premises and they refuse to do so. That's typically where that would get handled. It would be as a trespass as opposed to us enforcing some panhandling type regulation.
So do you think that we need anything on panhandling then? Do we need a separate Muni code to address anything?
I certainly don't see the
wasn't
need for it,
enforced.
Chief. Do we have a significant issue with that?
Okay.
So, yeah, I would say probably not unless we,
Okay.
had an issue that we were trying to address specifically.
Okay. Thank you.
I think the updates are good, especially the timelines. 10 a.m. to sunset, I think is much better.
Mhm.
So, all right, with that, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So it'll go to village board with a positive recommendation. Yes.
I think it's important to mention that before we came to the board tonight, we had what was under the previous version. So we have had those folks, now that the weather has turned nice, out in the field. So just be mindful that those folks that I previously sent an email to each of you regarding peddlers and canvassers permits and advising you that all of the businesses and each of those persons' names can be found on our website. They are acting under the old one. So we will proceed forward once this ordinance gets published and posted and becomes law with the new rules.
Okay. But
Thank you.
with the list of people that currently have their license for this be listed, is that correct? Just the ordinance verbiage is wrong?
So with the current ones now, I mean, because of the fact that the time is getting later with 9 o'clock, maybe around the PM, I don't know that we're going to see much of a difference, right? Because it's based on just the time and our daylight savings times are longer. We don't have anything on our website that specifies if this is this group under this ordinance and this group is under this ordinance. I don't know that we're going to see much of a difference, but I just wanted to be mindful of that. I can put on our website that this list is after today's date of this meeting.
Right.
If
But
you want to see that.
But the list of the companies that actually hold a license to do this, those are listed.
They're listed not only
permits.
by the company name, but each of those
But the individual-
representatives,
I
yes,
looked it up.
yes. And
Is
I
that
sent it,
current?
and it is current, and it's
Okay.
updated as they become approved. Once the background investigation is conducted and our chief of police provides an approval, then that's when the license and only at that time is it issued, and we update it after that.
Okay.
I just have a dumb question.
Go ahead.
Do you guys really get people coming to your door?
Absolutely.
Really? Okay, I
just
guess I'm
had one.
lucky, or I'm never home.
That's because where you live.
Yeah, you and I are in a whole different area for that, so.
And just, I,
Get a trick or treater, so I forget.
And I think that-
Solicitor.
you might start getting some phone calls or whatever, because right now in the field for one of the businesses, we're going to have approximately 24 applicants. And then the other 4 businesses have anywhere between 8 and 15 each. So while Germantown is large, I mean, that's quite a few solicitors out in the field. That's why it's important to note that the license that I sent to you, an example or the color of it, that they should be having that on their person.
Okay.
Okay. In addition to, in that email, I specified that the license that they're holding will also be in a vehicle. I've been advised by one of the larger companies, which is Aptiv. Aptiv Environmental is a pest control business,
Right.
and they usually will have 4 to 5 people in the field in one vehicle. So once those people get out in the vehicle, then they have it parked, which could be in front of your house, abandoned or whatever, for 7 or 8 hours. One of the things that I implemented here in Germantown is that they have the license also displayed in the windshield so that folks can at least see why that vehicle is there. And I change the color every year so people cannot make copies. In addition to, we put that embossed seal on there. So if you were to ask the person, and all of this information I put on our website.
Right. Thank you.
All right. We voted on this already, right?
Yep.
Great. It does exclude trick or treating. I know that, so don't have to worry. All right, item H, transfer of general legal services engagement to Stafford Rosenbaum LLP, and this is for action.
Sure. So as I think all of you know, I've recently made the decision to change the firm from which I practice, basically moving from my current small firm to the Stafford firm. Stafford, as I know, it's with me, will actually be 60 attorneys. And of that, really, there's probably well over 50% of the attorneys there that do some government related work, whether it's the pure day-to-day type operations that I do, or if it's people that are doing environmental work or labor work or building construction work for municipalities. That they've got over half of the firm does some government related work. They do have or will have 22 with me folks that are within what they call their G team or the government team. And so the biggest change that this will do for you is that it's really going to give us some bandwidth to make sure that we're getting things done in a timely manner. In addition, they have expertise in areas that while I know things about, my level of expertise is probably limited. And so having the ability to just draw on that expertise will prevent the need for potentially having to go to outside counsel as well. So things like, again, construction, contracting, labor, environmental, public utility stuff. So like when we do rate cases, for example, with the water utility, they've got 2 attorneys that do rate cases on a regular basis. More depth to handle litigation, those types of things. Nonetheless, even with that extra level of potential service and expertise, their rates are basically competitive with what we see in the market otherwise, both based on a survey of all the communities in the area and as the committee and ultimately the board knows from our RFP that we just did last fall. It's right in line with the numbers that were there. This particular agreement at the request of the president has been in the form of an agreement, which is in the packet. The biggest change from the previously kind of sampled potential agreement that some of you may have seen is just that the president did also want a provision that included some provisions to basically try to control the spend a little bit. So we just put in a contact policy that's there that basically says, if people are going to be coming to me, the president or the administrator basically need to know about it and to authorize it, with the exceptions of effectively the department heads that they're trusted enough to know that they can come to me directly and to limit their access. So in practice, what that means is if I get contacted by a citizen, for example, or a second level staff member, my first question is, have you been authorized to do this? And then if not, then we direct them in the right process to do it. So.
It's a good idea. Committee.
Make a motion to approve the agreement for legal services with Stafford Rosenbaum LLP.
I'll second. Discussion.
Yes, I have a question. So what can you let us know why you're making the change or?
Yeah, I mean, in short, it boils down to a lot of things. The primary one for me is that my partner Jesse, who's the other one that does mostly the municipal work, he is what is he? He's 71 this year, and isn't getting any younger. Has been increasingly having some health related issues over the last couple of years, it's just time to put myself in a better position to make sure that my career is not hampered by the fact that now all of a sudden I've got to deal with, him not being there and picking up the slack for what he's doing. That's the primary reason. Other reasons include the fact that, they're good people. I know most of the attorneys, well, certainly all of the government attorneys and even a lot of the other non-government attorneys, they're good people. They provide lots of expertise. In fact, they are a firm that often, many of the people there are people that I informally contact when I'm noodling through things as it is. We just did in Mequon updates to the floodplain ordinance, for example. We're going to be going through that process here as we look to adopt our maps. One of the things we'll have to do is update our ordinance as well. And as we were looking at, how far can I push this, before we really anger the DNR, for example, they were the ones that I was talking to say, hey, what do you think if we do this, is that too far, and getting their feedback. So it'll be good to have that ability to just do that in-house instead of calling, for a favor effectively. So.
Oh, that's good. And then there were on this list several different categories of government and some other group and varying ranges of pricing. So do you have a title? There were partners, there were associates, and then what would be the subsequent cost per hour?
Sure. So I would be classified as a partner with the firm, going in as a partner. The associates generally are folks that have, I think there it's typically less than 7 years experience. After 7 years, they look at them to bring them into the partnership potentially if they're working out. In terms of hours, it really is going to depend on the type of work that's being done, as you see in the agreement. Just general day-to-day, regular municipal guidance and drafting ordinances, reviewing most contracts, that kind of stuff. That's under what they call their just general rate. And there, the part rate for partners is $245. For associates, it's $215. They do potentially charge for paralegal work. I've got to be honest, I've never had a paralegal and never in any firm that I've ever worked at, so I don't know how involved they're going to be. But they're at $155 if for work that they do. If it's more specialized work, so for example, when we're negotiating development agreements, that's at a higher rate. The rate there is $320 for partners, $260 for associates, and the same $155 for paralegals. And there, we would look to make sure that we're actively looking to recoup those costs from the developers themselves. We have a code provision that requires it, and that's fairly typical with what we've done historically, as well as part of that. So we look to just try to push those costs off where we can. If there was, additional things that were even more specialized, we would talk about it at the time. So if it was, that rate case, for example, if we were going to use them to do a water rate case, we would talk about whatever that looks like at the time, and you could decide whether or not you wanted to proceed or not. So.
And then Matt, I have a question for you. We're under a month by month with you, I think, right now. What is that rate? Do we know what the rate is?
It's 200 for me and Jesse, and then associates. Basically, we had a guy, Matt Rademacher, most recently. He is at 180 a month.
Okay.
Or not a month, an hour.
An hour. And then do you see that any of your hours would increase or decrease at this moment in time?
I would anticipate that it's largely the same. I don't see an additional, flood of work coming in. Obviously, there may be things that I'm not aware of that may change that. What it really does is it allows me to utilize that lower paying group of associates, which they have a number of, to do some of the work. So for example, the transient merchant ordinance that we talked about, that was when the board said, hey, do this, was assigned to the associate who didn't do
Right.
the work. I'll now have associates that'll be able to do that. So instead of having me do it at that higher rate, we'll be able to do it with the associate rate. So, I anticipate that the overall expenditure is probably going to be fairly consistent when you take into account the fact that we are charging back to developers and that kind of thing. So.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And what about, I think I brought this up to Donna at one time, code of ethics. Do you provide that? Is this part of the contract? Or-
Meaning, did I sign the form? I did sign the form when we re-upped the contract again. As we've talked about, I signed
Okay.
it back when I started 13 years ago. I don't know where that form is. I was smart enough to keep a copy this time. But certainly if the board was looking to have me re-up that as part of this transfer, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, I think that makes good sense. New company. That's great. Everybody's switching companies, not me.
Trustee Kaminsky.
Done.
I just one repetitive question. So the new firm does not mind that we don't have a contract?
It's right there.
Well, there will be a contract.
Yeah, there will be this time.
Oh, there will be. For how long?
It's basically a year-to-year contract with, I think it's 90-day out that. you
For
can walk
either,
away
either
at it.
party?
For either party.
Right.
All right, any other questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carries. So that will go to village board with a positive recommendation. All right, we will move on to reports. And before we move on to reports, I just want to recommend to the General Government and Finance Committee that if it's a question about something that's material to the report, that I would recommend, yeah, we bring that up here. If it's a question about education, who is this for? What is this for? That type of thing. Can we direct that to staff, and then that'll continue to move things along?
Okay.
So with that, we'll move on to accounts payable, and there are 6 accounts payables, I believe. There is. So are there any questions about accounts payable? All right, if not, we'll move. Oh, do you have one? Go ahead.
yeah. Matt, do you have this up where it's one of 400 and some pages? It's page 101.
Is that the entire packet? I don't have the entire packet open. I can open up
Oh.
accounts payable.
Which AP is?
423. 423. 423. And this is for Rinka.
All right, I have that in front of me.
What is it for?
That was part of the contract agreement for the Village Center project. I don't know what that specific invoice is for. I'd have to go up and pull the invoice and see
Okay.
the invoice details. But it's related to the Village Center project.
Okay, anything else on accounts payable? If not, we'll move on to budget to actual, year-to-date budget to actual.
Just an overall summary for the year-to-date budget actual. As you can see, if you looked at the revenue page, we're at about 50% of revenues. That's largely responsible for us collecting much of the tax revenue at the beginning of the year. Some of the revenues to take a look at, that can fluctuate throughout the year are recreation revenues, where they'll see a big jump in the summer here as they start up their summer programming. And another revenue that if you want to kind of track the health of some of the revenues throughout the village are community development revenues, whether that be building permits, electrical permits. Those play a large part in the annual budget for the general fund. So as those revenues go, so does the general fund budget.
Have a question, Terry? No? Okay. With that, we'll move on to payroll. Anything on payroll? Actually not. And with that, we'll move on to contracts. This one might have questions. Anything in the contracts? Okay. If not, we'll move on to director's report.
I don't have anything too exciting. What I tried to highlight in this month's director's report is the completion of several reports that are due at the beginning of May. So for the second straight year, the village did not have to request an extension for the Public Service Commission report. So we submitted that by the May 1st deadline. That's in large part due to the help of Mr. Morway and the DPW team. They did a great job of giving us all that utility information that we need to submit that report in a timely fashion. In addition, we submitted the state financial report, Form C, by the May 15th deadline. We're continuing to work with Baker Tilly to finish up the 2024 audit. All the things that they need from the village have been submitted. Now they're just working to compile the annual comprehensive financial report, which we plan on issuing in June. This will bring us back in line to where we were pre-2020 with an early June issuance. Just wanted to give a shout out to our accountant on staff, Alex. He played a significant role in the improvement of getting that done in a timely manner. For the last couple of years, the submittal of the ACFRs was later than the village would care for, and Alex has played a large part in getting us caught up and back to submitting that in a timely fashion. So I just wanted to give him a shout out here. In addition, tomorrow, myself, the village administrator, and Ehlers will meet with Moody's for our rating for our 2025 bond issuance. We remain in a strong fiscal position, and we don't anticipate any changes to our Moody rating.
All right. Any questions for Matthew? Great. If not, our next meeting will be June 16th, Monday, June 16th, and we'll do that at 5:30. And before we close, I'd like to say thank you, Aaron, for your service to Germantown. We really appreciate the last few years, and I appreciate working with you on several different things. And good luck in West Dallas, right? Good luck. Yeah, it's a great community. So thank you. And with that, we will adjourn at 6:52.